Do you find you use the same words over and over again, like we're going to for making plans? Well, there are so many more words you could use at a C2 level for making plans, such as our intention is to go on holiday this year. Our intention is a more advanced way of speaking about your plans. And in this video, I'm going to show you how you can take simple language that you might use over and over again and make it more advanced up to a C2 level. Another way that you could express making plans is to say, our collective resolution was to build a new factory for the company. Collective resolution is often used in a business context where perhaps you've had a meeting, you've made a plan, and now you want to communicate what you all together have decided to do. Also, we have resolved to undertake the task of. This is another very formal way of describing your plans when you make plans to do a task in the future. Again, perhaps in an enterprise situation. We've set our course to improve our sales next year. When you set your course, you make a plan to move in a certain direction. And you can say, we are moving forward with. This is when you either make a plan and then start to do it, or you've already been doing something, you check, and then you decide to carry on. And also, we have set in motion plans too. This is when you decide that something will happen in the future and there are some steps to go through before you get to the final plan. And that's setting in motion a plan. Now, how about those moments where you're discussing things with someone else? Often we start sharing our thoughts with the phrase, I think. But we could do this in a number of other ways, such as saying, it is my view that we should take this course of action. It is my view that. It's another way of saying it is my opinion. Or I am inclined to think that the correct answer is the one that you've just expressed. You might say, everything points towards this answer as being correct. Everything points towards. Here you're saying we have evidence and you take the evidence together and that makes us think this is true. Everything points towards this. I reckon. This is a more informal way of saying I think, but it's used a lot by English native speakers. So it's well worth you using this if you ever want to express your opinions in an informal setting with friends or colleagues you know well. I reckon this video is going to help you a lot with your English vocabulary. Gut feeling is another informal phrase, but we might use it in a range of situations. My gut feeling is that this is true. Gut feeling is all about what you feel inside, you don't have complete evidence for, but your senses are telling you that something is true instead. Maybe you could use this phrase. I would venture to suggest. Venture to suggest. This is a really good C2 level phrase. That means I have an idea. Venture to suggest means I have an idea. It's not a very strong idea, but I have a feeling it might be the right one. You could say suspect. I suspect that. Suspect means, again, you have an idea, and it's more based on being like a detective. You've seen some things that probably mean something else. You don't have absolute proof yet, but you think it's going to be true. And good reason to believe. There is good reason to believe that learning English on YouTube is an effective strategy of language learning. Good reason to believe means that you have evidence, again, that what you think is correct. When we give advice, the most common phrase is "you should." But you don't want to use it over and over again. At an advanced level of English, you want more complex phrases, such as, "I would recommend that you listen to the advice I'm giving." Would recommend. Recommend means this is a good idea. Would is a very effective way of presenting advice. I would do this, I would do that, because it's less confrontational. Instead of saying you talk about I. In your situation, I would recommend this. It makes it more polite. Another way of using would is here. It would be advisable for you to take the advice that has been given. Here we use it before the phrase. It would be advisable. I would recommend, but it would be advisable. You could also try this. It would be prudent. Prudent means this is a sensible thing to do. Based on good ideas, good thinking, good logic. It's prudent. You could also say, I would encourage you to take this advice. This is with I. I would encourage you. Encourage, here we're saying, I really want to. I want to push you gently in this direction. Well advised goes with you. You are well advised to listen to the advice that the garage gave you about your car. Or propose. I propose that you take this course of action. I propose instead of you should. Here are two more. A sensible plan would be to go to the garage and get your car fixed if you're talking about a car that needs work. A sensible plan would be this. Or you could consider following this piece of advice. And this is very indirect, so it's always going to be friendly if you say this. It's far better than saying you should. What about if you get unhappy with something? It's very useful in English to have a range of phrases that describe when you're unhappy. And sometimes this can make any complaints that you have less direct and easier for the person listening to receive. Here's a few suggestions. Troubled by. I am troubled by the information that I've read. I am troubled by the news I saw. Troubled by simply means in your mind there's something that's not comfortable in you. It's not saying that you are completely unhappy. It's indicating that you might be unhappy about something. Wretched can describe how you feel yourself. I feel wretched. It's a stronger way of saying I feel terrible. Or I'm vexed about something. This is informal and a bit stronger. If you're vexed about something, then something has upset you and you feel it quite strongly. If you want to complain about a service you've received, but you don't want to be too direct, for example, by saying, I am unhappy about this product, I am angry about this product, a more formal way of communicating the same level of anger, but in a respectful way, is to say, I'm dissatisfied with the service I received. It still sounds angry, but it makes you look more professional and more formal when you do it, and you're more likely to get a good response. I'm slightly perturbed by. This is a really useful advanced phrase. You use this when there's a small problem. You don't want to say that you're completely upset or extremely angry about something. Perturbed means that something's annoyed you a little bit. And it's a formal way of doing it, so you can communicate that slight annoyance in a more polite way if you use I'm slightly perturbed by. I'm rather dismayed by. Dismayed is quite a strong word. Dismayed means you're very upset with something, but rather dismayed The rather takes the strength away a little bit. So you can communicate that your feelings are strong, but again, you're making them more formal when you do. If you are dejected, or you could say, I'm pretty dejected at the moment, it means you're really sad and disappointed. It may not be with something in particular. It might be. Maybe you've applied for a place in a college or a job and you have been told no. Then you can say that you're dejected. You feel bad. You feel disappointed. And profoundly disappointed is a way of making disappointed stronger in a more advanced way. I'm profoundly disappointed. It really means very, but in a more advanced way. Which phrases do you find yourself saying to talk about your future ambitions? Do you always just say, I want to be this, I want to do that, want? Well, there are a number of more advanced words and phrases you can use for future ambitions, such as using the word aspire. I aspire to be a scientist when I grow up. That's if you're studying science at college. Or I'm seeking to become a doctor. I'm seeking to become means this is what I hope will happen next. I'm intent on becoming. This has a bit more strength to it. If you are intent on becoming, say, a doctor, then not only do you want to be a doctor, you also want to put a lot of effort and set your path in that direction. My intention is to become a doctor. That's another way of saying the same thing. I see myself. In 10 years' time, I can see myself working in another country. Perhaps. Or in 10 years' time, I envisage becoming a doctor. I'm on a pathway to. This means you have a future ambition and you've already started the journey towards that ambition. You're already doing things to try to get there. And a similar phrase is, I'm working towards my qualifications or getting the experience I need to do the job that I want in the future. Now we're going to learn phrases and words which help you describe what happens when you think about the past and think about what it means to you. We often use a phrase, it's made me think. What happened last year made me think about my future. But we can use many more phrases than that. Starting with, it's brought home the notion. What happened last year has brought home the notion that I need to change direction with my life next year and the year after. Or it's led me to a realization that some ways that I was thinking were not the best ways to think. Maybe this. What happened last year has caused me to consider how I spend my time more in the future. It's driven home the point. All of the learning I did on this course in the last few months has driven home the point that I need to study harder. Open my eyes to. The journey that I went on last summer opened my eyes to new opportunities that exist in other countries. Underscored the fact. Underscored the fact means that you perhaps knew something was true and then an experience you had or something that you came to know made it even clearer that this was correct. So perhaps this video has underscored the fact that there's a lot more to English than you knew before. You could say evoked strong feelings if you're describing how an experience in the past makes you feel now. It evoked strong feelings in me about my own country when I tasted food that I had when I was a child. So evoked strong feelings. Well, that means what happened in the past, creating feelings that were in the past, but it can also be used for the present as well. You could change it to it evokes strong feelings, which is the present simple. Or one more, It's taken me on a journey. If you had a past experience that had different parts to it and taught you new things as you went along, you could say it's taken me on a journey of understanding life more or understanding myself better. Or maybe you're not thinking about the past, you're thinking about the future. You've got decisions to make and you can't make them. A simple way of describing this could be to say, I'm thinking about my future plans. But we could also say, I'm weighing up my future plans. I'm weighing up my options is a common phrase that we use to describe this. When you've got several different possibilities and you're trying to think which one to choose, you're weighing them up to see which one is the best. Also, I'm mulling over the different options I have. That simply means that you're thinking and you don't necessarily have a plan in mind about when you're going to decide. You're more casually thinking when you have spare time. It's something that you're doing gradually without perhaps clear intent at the moment. You could say deliberating. I'm currently deliberating whether to go left or right. Deliberating is more focused. You're thinking in a more focused way and you're trying hard to choose something. If you say you're examining the possibility, it means you know that you could do something in the future and you're just checking out whether it's the right thing. You're looking at different aspects of the plan just to see if this is right for you. So you're not committed, you're looking at one particular thing and maybe it's the right thing, maybe it's not. You're examining it. If you're caught in two minds, it means you can't choose between two things. You've got two possibilities and no matter how much you think, you can't see that one is better than the other. You're caught in two minds about whether to go left or right at the next road junction. If you're thinking something over, that's a bit like mulling over. I'm just thinking over a few things at the moment. It's more informal, it's more casual. You don't necessarily have to say that you have certain plans that you're thinking about. You're just thinking over a few things. You've got some things in the back of your mind that you're thinking about. Generally, you'll have to make some decision about them, but it's more casual. And if you say, I'm trying to ascertain whether one thing is better than another, means that you are putting some study and some effort into finding the right answer to something. And improve your English vocabulary further with my Advanced English Vocabulary course on Udemy. There's a link in the video description below me if you want to know more.